What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to show you how to record a keyboard or synth in your DAW. This way you can have your electric pianos or synthesizers recorded onto the songs you're working on. Just a quick note before we get started, in this video we won't be showing you how to use a USB MIDI keyboard, but we will be showing you how to record a keyboard or synthesizer with audio outputs that you can then record through your interface into your DAW. Now this setup will work with any interface you have that has 1/4-inch line inputs and any DAW you have available on your computer. For this first setup we'll use our very own Rockville ROCK-U Mini, and I'll be using the DAW GarageBand that comes included on all Macs. So first let's go over how to set up your interface to your computer. First we'll need the USB cable that comes included with your interface. We're going to plug the USB-B end right into the back of the ROCK-U Mini. Then we'll plug the USB-A end into the computer, or in my case, my USB hub. Next you'll want to go into the sound settings of your computer and switch your input and output device to whichever interface you're using. So we'll start by going into the output section here. From there you'll see all the available devices you're able to use for your output device. So we'll just want to hover down to where it says ROCK-U Mini and click on it to set it as the output device. Then we'll do the same exact thing for our input section here. Hover down to the interface you want to use, so where it says ROCK-U Mini, and just click on it to set it as the input device. You'll also want to do this on the sound settings of whichever DAW you're using. So on GarageBand you'll want to go to the Audio MIDI section. From there you'll see these drop-down menus here where you can change the input and output device. So we'll click on the drop-down menu for the output device and click on ROCK-U Mini to set it as the output device. And you'll see as soon as I did that, the input device automatically changed to the ROCK-U Mini as well. Now the first way we can set up our keyboard or synthesizer is by using one channel on our interface for a mono setup. This is the easiest way to record your keys or synth, and from there you'll have the option to pan your channel to the left, right, or center. So to connect my keyboard to my interface, I'm going to need a TS 1/4-inch cable. I'm going to take one end and plug it into the left mono output on my synthesizer. Then I'm going to take the other end and plug that into the 1/4-inch line input on my interface. For the ROCK-U Mini, that's going to be on channel 1. Next we can go into our DAW and create a new mono track. Because we're using channel 1 on our interface, we're going to want to set the input to input 1. Then we can name our track keyboard, synthesizer, or whatever you see fit. Next we're going to raise the level knob here for channel 1. Then we'll want to raise the volume knob for our keyboard or synthesizer. So now if I play my synth, you'll see the level coming through our track here. When you see this, you'll want to be sure that your level isn't heading into the yellow or red region, which would mean your track is getting too loud or even to the clipping stage. So if you see your signal coming through to that yellow or red region, you'll just want to lower the level knob on your interface or the volume knob on your synthesizer or keyboard. So now all we have to do is hit record and lay down some keys. Now another setup you can do is a 2-channel stereo setup. This way we can have the keyboard present on both sides of the mix for a nice stereo sound. For this setup you're also going to want to use a 2-channel interface like our very own R-Track 2x2. So for this setup we'll need 2 1/4-inch TS cables. We're going to take the end of both cables and plug them into the 1/4-inch left and right outputs on our synth. Then you'll take the other ends and plug them into the 1/4-inch inputs on your interface. If the outputs on your keyboard are unavailable for any reason, or if it only has an 1/8-inch output or headphone jack, you can use a cable like our very own RCB SM3B, plug the 1/8-inch end into the 1/8-inch output of your keyboard, and then plug the 1/4-inch ends into 2 channels on your interface. Now this approach isn't recommended if the 1/8-inch output is used for headphones only, but if the 1/8-inch output is a line level output, then this approach is perfectly fine. So next we'll go into our DAW and create a new track. Now you'll want to make this a stereo track by selecting inputs 1 and 2 together, since we use inputs 1 and 2 on our interface. So now we can rename our track Stereo Synth or Stereo Keyboard, or however you see fit. Then you'll want to raise the gain knobs on channels 1 and 2 on your interface, and the volume knob on your synth. So now if we play on our synth, you'll see the signal for channel 1 and channel 2 coming through our track here. So now we can hit record and lay down some more synth. Now on other DAWs, you can use the same approach to create a track with both inputs, or you can set up separate tracks for each input for more control of your recordings. Now the last setup I want to show you guys is how you can add external processing like a preamp to add more warmth and body to your synth or keyboard recording. First, we have to connect our preamp to our interface. So I'm going to take a couple of TS 1/4" cables. I'm going to take one end of both cables and plug them into the 1/4" output on the back of my preamp. Then I'm going to take the other ends and plug them into inputs 1 and 2 on my interface. So next we need to connect our keyboard or synth to the preamp. For that, we'll take 2 more TS 1/4" cables. We'll take the end of both cables and plug them into the left and right outputs on our synth. Then we'll take the other ends and plug them into the 1/4" inputs on our preamp. Next we'll go to our preamp and raise the gain knobs. And because this preamp has a feature called tube drive, we're going to add some of that as well for some extra flair. Next we'll want to go to our interface and raise the gain knobs for channels 1 and 2, and then we'll raise the volume for our synth. Next we'll go back into our DAW and create a new stereo track. Again, since we're using inputs 1 and 2 on our interface, we'll use input 1 and 2 for our track. Next we can rename the track to synth with preamp or whatever you want to name it. So now if we play our synthesizer, you should see the levels coming through our track. Again, if you see the signal coming through in the yellow or red region, you're either going to want to lower the gain knobs on your interface, the gain knobs on your preamp, or the volume knob on your synth. So all we have to do now is hit record and lay down some more keys. Now you could use the same approach to add other pieces of gear to your setup like compressors, EQs, etc. and get a more interesting sound out of your recording. So feel free to experiment as you go along. So hopefully this showed you guys how easy it is to record a keyboard or synthesizer in your DAW, but of course if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you guys next time.